Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Merry Christmas. So, thought we'd do a standalone build for the last one of the year. As, we've now finished the slog, so we are just outside of Oberland Station now. And those of you who played the game for a while will know that around about level 20, you get a little Easter egg. This little spaceship here crashes. It's like spoiler alert, but the game's been out for long enough, so I'm not particularly worried. And out of it crawls a little alien that survives. And he heads off to a little cave, which I've long thought would be a very good place to make a kind of survival hideout type settlement player home build thingamajig. So, just so you can see where we are, we're going to head around the corner and down to this little cave. Yeah, just across from Cambridge, just a little bit to the east of Oberland Station, which is just up that little ravine there. And there we go. There's an awful lot of green light down here. Mostly from the glowing fungus that's all over the place, I think, when you first arrive here. And I've cleaned most of the place out now. That little red post there is our workbench. Using Workbench anywhere again. And we're going to try and make this place habitable. This Curie stops running around and creeping me out. But fortunately, also get the lighting in and get most of the build done, a lot of the green light disappears, but for now we'll have to deal with this, unfortunately. So with the floor being so uneven, I wanted to put floor down just so it make it easier to furnish the place, give it more of a completed home type look. So we'll group select this first one in. Actually, surprisingly, this was a lot more forgiving and easy to work with than I expected. Now, as long as you don't sink these floors too far down, then they'll just snap in like that, which is very, very handy. And you need it sort of as low as you can reasonably get it, so we've got bits of earth and stone poking through, but then again, the ceiling's quite low in here, so we need a bit of clearance as well, otherwise we're not going to be able to move around. There's a few places like that where it's a little bit temperamental, and then there's other places like that where it just cooperates. So around the edges we'll need a few smaller boards, because it's not a uniform size, as it's not intended as a settlement build. But for the most part, just let the game do what it wants to do, and the floor will just snap straight in. So it's much easier just to let it snap where it wants to, and then work out from there, rather than try and force it to do things. See, it's not playing ball here. Oh wait, maybe it is. There we go. And we've got the main basis down now, and we'll just fill in the corners. I'm going to adjust the position on these, and try and make the clipping a little more subtle, make it look like it's placed intentionally rather than sort of, you know, glitched through. And there we go. So basically the floor in place. The one drawback with doing this, of course, is it makes group selecting things very, very difficult, so we're going to have to go backward and forward, pulling bits of floor out and replacing them, just so we can have some natural floor to do the group select with. A few corners that we can't snap floors into, but a few boards over. And we'll start on subdividing the area up. Obviously we haven't really got much in the way of rooms here. It's a few little angles and corners and things like this corner here that make good sort of basis for rooms. So I'm going to start off with this, which is going to be eventually a bedroom. So we've got half-shack wall, which is going to use the lines on the floor to get everything straight and positioned. Fortunately, these are nice and cooperative, so they're easy just to glitch together like this. And I'll just build a nice ramshackle wall there. A little bit awkward to see exactly how you're lining things up, but a little bit of adjustment will get there. So, interestingly enough, despite the fact the floor clips right through there, because the earth's so high, the game seems willing to ignore it, so we can still use group select on that. There's a couple of places I've done that, which is quite helpful, actually. This is the first one, so I'll grab this curved wall piece and just slot it in there. It's a little bit finicky about where it will and won't go, but it works well enough for the job. Little warehouse half wall. Because I'm going for a kind of survival type bunker here. I thought I wanted it to look sort of like, with the exception of the floor at least anyway, the place is built out of stuff that's been collected over a period of time and dragged down here to make it more homely. So, unfortunately, as this shack wall here is not quite as forgiving, largely because it's a vanilla piece and snaps on, we'll line it up with the original one, pull that out as you've just seen, and now we can just try and find a vaguely flat bit of earth down here, which is challenging, to say the least. And then we'll just group select it back in nice and easy. There we go. I'll actually come back to a little point in a moment on making that sort of finding flat bit of ground easier. But first, with the ceiling getting rather low here, I thought we'd close this end off. So we're going to use a couple of ordinary shack walls, the corrugated steel ones. Obviously here, because this wall is considerably larger, the ground is just far too uneven. For some reason I can't select it at all on the front edge. So we'll go around the end in a moment. About the collision being too big, but yet the things will be too far away to group select. It's strange. Well, there we go. You can see now that that wall is floating a little too high. It's above the level of the bottom of the ashtray, so we need to sink it down a bit. So we're going to group select the whole thing, ashtray included. Just nudge it down a tiny little bit. I'll come over, grab the ashtray and let it just pop straight up. Place it back down again. Grab it. It's better, but still not quite. So we'll repeat. Just hold that slightly down into the earth. Just pop it back up there. And there we go. So it's a little bit finicky trying to get this to clip through the sort of pillar in the middle there. There's a proper word for that, but I can't remember what it is. Not stalagmite or a stalactite. Something else. Oh well. Yes, unfortunately, because it's the ashtray or other is on the end of the wall, we haven't got enough floor to group select in with, so we'll snap that floor piece back in. Give us a basis to work from, and there we go. So this piece should work fine. I had planned to use the ashtray on this again, but it occurred to me it'd be a lot easier, particularly given that this sinks into the ground, just to pull the floor piece out and group select it straight with the concrete pillar. Nice and easy. There we go. And the crossbeams sort of look like they're nailed to the wall as well, which is cool. So we're going to snap the floor back in, which for the most part is reasonably easy to do, although we've got this one section here that doesn't want to play ball for some reason. So I have absolutely no idea why, because it's the same height it always was, but this time it's not going to cooperate, so we'll pull the floor out again and have to try a slightly more complicated approach. So we'll grab the pillar and group select it. First thing to do is try and find the edge of the piece we want to line it up with. So now we've got an idea of where that is. You can see that sort of gap there, just off the edge of the green piece, is the edge of the one we're lining up with. So line up along there. Try and carefully move it along the line, which is easier said than done with the controller. There we go. Not quite perfect, but close enough. It doesn't really need to be perfect for this sort of a build. And then we'll put the floors back. So I felt I wanted the place to be a little bit more secure. So to achieve that, we're going to sort of build a kind of almost checkpoint on the entrance. We'll put a doorway in first. I did try vault doors and shack walls and door frames, and decided this one sort of fits with the circular hole in the ground a little better, and it just generally looks more the part, I think. So we'll position that nice and carefully. Fortunately, everything seems to be reasonably soft on these, so just nudge it up, line everything up. If you're having difficulties lining it up, it's kind of hard to see while it's highlighted green, but in the middle of the doorway, you see a little line on the floor. It gives you a central point to line up with if you need one. So, a rusty non-snapping door. Just check which way it opens. And we will just rug glitch this into place. It's by far and away the easiest way of doing that. There we go. For some reason, because it doesn't snap, I think the collision's just slightly too large on either the wall or the door. It won't quite fit in. It's a little bit wonky there, so rug glitch is the way to do it. I'd imagine group select will probably work, but somewhat less precise, so... There we go, nice and straight. Job's a good one. So we can build off a second, more secure area inside, so that we can trap any unwanted visitors who happen to find the place, as unlikely as that may be. The idea here is that the principal defence for this sort of player home is that it's well off the beaten track, it's hidden inside a cave, and chances of anybody stumbling across it are quite small. Anybody who does is going to get an unpleasant surprise if they make it down this far, because they'll find themselves in a small box with a laser turret in their face. So, just use the warehouse doorway initially. Rug glitch in that wall to close the gap. You have to use two rugs here just so that it'll clip through the floor without the collision of the first rug getting in the way. Another warehouse sort of, I don't know, quarter wall? Scrappy end piece? I don't even know what you call that. Either way, I quite like them because when it comes to building scrappy, ramshackle structures, especially when you're group selecting or rug glitching stuff together, it adds to that scrappy aesthetic quite well. Push another board into the wall and close up the gap in the middle. I did try a few shack railings there, but they all looked too square, and even the retextured ones just didn't really look the part. It was a little too artificial, so... A little bit of chain link, first and foremost. That gap's in the middle of it's kind of... it bugged me, so we'll grab some window boards in just a moment and plug the gap up with those. There we go. These things are ridiculously forgiving. So just literally slide it straight in like that. Simple as. So I wanted something up the top to close off the top end as well. As it turned out, these window boards, something weird with the floor or the ceiling. While I'm measuring it to see if it'll fit, oh look at that, it's just placed. No glitching, nothing, it's just attached itself to the floor, presumably because it sticks in. And the upper floor up there is obviously quite close to the ground, I guess. To the ceiling, rather, quite narrow. But, if it's going to be so cooperative, we'll go with it. So we're going to build a little turret stand for the window there. I did try using a table and a few other bits and pieces, but it's a slightly awkward height, so we'll have to improvise a little bit. So a couple of bolt crates. Unfortunately, they won't just sit one on top of the other, so group select. And to get it the right height, we'll glitch the turret into it, sort of hide the legs. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. If I'd used one of the largest square ones, it might have concealed the legs a little better, but they weren't quite the right height, so we have to make do. And the hard part here is making sure that the second set match up in height with the first one, because we're doing it manually, so trying to make sure we can see the original one in the back there, and then line this up so it looks as similar in terms of its position as possible. I'll just group select using the bottom one and just check it out. Yeah, I think that's about close enough. So we'll just drop it into place. Did take a little bit of trial and error, that one, but we got there in the end. And you can see the table that I rejected there. So grab the other one, group select again, and just carefully nudge it into place. Nice and steady. There we go. So, that's the main part of the build. The rest of it is just very, very decoration heavy. And sort of subdivide the remaining areas using the furniture and that sort of thing. It creates a pretty cool look, as we'll see in a moment. So we've got Oberland up there. I think I'm actually going to use this at some point on another playthrough when I eventually start another ridiculously hardcore survival one. And just build the player home in here. Because I quite like the location. It's easy enough to fast travel to. And it's pretty cool for a solo kind of loner survival type character. There we go. We are in. That's a little front area. Fortunately, half the cave tunnel is just a transition area, so the door's kind of up close and personal. Move on in. Some bright lights in your face just to dazzle you when you first arrive. There's a laser turret. So there's 2 doors here that just... I accidentally snapped a second one in without meaning to at all, and it just worked, so I kind of like the highly secure look of it. So, as you can see, the decoration, I've gone a lot more overboard on this time, and it really makes it, I think. So, little power armor station there and crafting area. Everything an individual alone would need to survive in the wasteland here. Food production's a little on the low side, but they can go out and hunt, I guess. Some storage at the back there and a little chill out area. I thought I'd put the laser turret on a switch just because you'll be able to hear anybody coming down the tunnel, and it is kind of noisy. So, there we go. Easily reachable from the seating area there as well. A little cooking area, various bits and pieces just stacked around. I've tried to make it so that most things could be dragged here eventually by one person. Or sort of put together by one person at least as well. Assuming they've been here for a while. All the necessaries for heading out into the wasteland. Hazmat suits, some armour and stuff. Little bedroom. I'm assuming they've got dog meat as a companion, so there's a little rug there for him to keep on. Nice gun rack there. Not really happy with the gun racks we have available. They're a bit... yeah, they're not really all that good, but there we go. A malfunctioning fusion core generator, as they wouldn't want a petrol one down here. The fumes would be rather choking in so enclosed a space. On to our little hydroponics area. So, this person's obviously working on providing themselves with a bit more food down here, so they have to do less foraging out in the wilds. Fortunately, with the mods I've got, the options for decorative food is a little limited for now. But it works, gives the right impression. Can't put anything on the hydroponics things, unfortunately, but there we go. Strangely, for a lot of the build, it was a lot darker. And then I went through the load screen and came back in, and the game caught up with everything had changed. So, as you can see, most of that green light has gone, and it's much better illuminated. It's cool. Well, I think so anyway. I like it a lot. Well, there we go. So, thank you very much for watching as always. I do hope you all have a wonderful Christmas. I will be back again early in the new year. I'm going to take a little break between now and then. For now, if you like the video, you know what to do. Social media links as always down in the description. And I will be speaking to you all very, very soon.